as you can see, Spud, from my video camera that no one else can see other than you because you're special, I'm in a new part of the office. And if you could see the rest of the office, you would know that Jordan Peterson would be spinning in his grave. It's
Jordan Peterson's dead?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Have you heard of him in the last year? He was in Russia last I heard.
In Russia?
Yeah.
Him and Snowden, man.
Yeah. He got really, really sick or something, didn't he? And he ended up
He's a drug addict, isn't he?
Drug addict, yeah, that's it, yeah. Well, if it's still, he's addicted to drugs. It's a drug addict.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I hope he gets off. I mean, loads of people don't like Jordan Peterson, but like, I think he's quite smart.
He's smart in some places. In other places, he's probably, I don't know, same as the rest of us. Knows one or two things about something, and then likes to think that he knows one or two things about everything.
When it comes to psychology, listen to him. Anything else, no.
Yeah.
You're all right.
That because people always were giving out to me about listening to Jordan Peterson, because I only really care about when he talks about young. All that other stuff, don't care. And not even not interested in what he has to say about it at all.
Yeah.
But the young stuff.
But look, it's very important that you have to have an opinion on every single aspect of modern life, Tommie.
Yeah, I don't know. Modern life. I'm you go back to what was it, Blur in 1990 something. Modern life is rubbish. I think they were well ahead of their time.
Yeah, very much ahead of their time. God, they were awful at the beginning, weren't they? And then they got really good, and now they don't play.
They recorded an album recently enough, I think.
Did they?
Well, I mean, in the last 5 years, maybe I'm wrong with that. Your man, the guitar player, joined him back again, and that could be 10 years ago. Time
could
just
be,
so weird.
Tommie. I think it might be 10 years ago. To be honest. You see, Radiohead have been doing well over the pandemic. They've been doing live versions of their albums,
right?
And being really cool about it as well, and like chopping them up so that everything's a single track on YouTube, rather than just like doing Metallica and just saying, we'll upload a fucking mediocre fucking concert we did to people we took money from. You know? I like Metallica. I love Metallica.
I do too, but I mean, I was watching, as I sent the video to you, Rick Beato. Is that how Beato?
Yeah, Beato, yeah.
And,
great videos.
He just ruined the Black Album for me in its entirety. In one way, in another way, it's cool because it's it's fallible and it's not. But it's just one thing I knew in life and was very sure of is that my favourite drum sound of all time is the Black Album. And it turns out to be all lies. It's all lies. It's all lies. Because you watch a year and a half in life of Metallica and there's this great, 4 month, 5 month stretch of Lars Ulrich, painstakingly putting these drum tracks together. That then someone put samples over.
Yeah. Sucks, alright. Like I'm very much from the fucking blood, sugar, sex, magic school of recording music. Like, just
no. Have you watched his? That's all samples
the Chili
too.
Peppers one.
No,
which?
That's all samples too. That's the same idea. That's not because that Chad Smith's drum sound and that is also Puddle of Mudd's drum sound. It's also Pearl Jam's drum sound. It's the same guy mixes it and he just samples. It's the same snare sound and all of it. And when you see the video, the Rick Beato video of him going through 5 or 6 different bands, you go, oh my God, it's the same drum kit. Exactly. I'll send you that one. That'll ruin your life.
No,
well.
he didn't say for the Chili Peppers one that it was, because I only watched one of the Chili's and it was the what's it called? Underneath the Bridge, whatever that song is called.
Yeah.
So watch that. But he didn't say it was sampled. He said it was by Brendan O'Brien is the producer, and he had this thing of.
Rick Rubin's the producer, so the mixer, the engineer. No, mixer.
Brendan O'Brien does all, or used to do all. He's done most of the Pearl Jam albums, all the old ones, Yeah. And he was saying that what you would do is there'd only be 2 microphones for the drum kit. Like there'd be one above and like one close, and that's it. And
right,
like
the Led Zeppelin school.
Exactly, but that's the best bit. And like the Blood Sugar Sex Magic one, it's mostly just them playing live. Like it's not like everything is separated. And it's like, okay, Flea, you play bass now for 5 hours and do your bits.
Oh no, it is. If you watch the video of them making that album, they're not really playing together. They're all playing the parts separately.
Yeah, well, I've read about it, and
see, this is it. It's all lies. Everything's lies. You can watch a video and it says one thing, and then I got Flea's autobiography, so he'll probably say something completely different.
Yeah. Well, the one I want to believe is that it was played. They all played live together and just played the songs and jammed.
Well,
them
if you
out,
watch that documentary, the Blood Sugar Sex Magic one, the black and white one, they're definitely not. Like the play, because it's shown like Anthony Kiedis up in a cupboard.
It sucks, man. That really.
John
sucks.
Frusciante up in the,
You're breaking my heart here. You know what? But you know what? What's to retort? I'm going to break your heart here.
Oh no!
Have you seen the shit about Glenn Hansard and the Frames?
Oh no.
Oh, now we can't say anything because I don't want you to get sued. I won't get sued because it's your podcast.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'll say it on my podcast.
Right.
But, you know,
Is it
I'm delighted
bad,
for him.
is it?
I'm delighted for him because I hate the Frames and I hate him. I think he's just the crappiest human Ireland has made.
Right. Well, I also feel the same after I read whatever it is that I have to read.
Yeah, I didn't send it to you. You know what? I made a note on my phone and I wrote it out on Discord for you and I said, you know what? I won't do it because it's Sunday night and I don't want to ruin this weekend.
All right. I'll try and appreciate
So I
that.
saved it, but I send it to you now because I built it up. And no, sure. I mean, have you seen?
Is it like Olaf Tyerson type stuff? Like, is it?
Oh yeah, probably even worse.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
At least with Olaf, it was a prostitute.
Because I was such a huge fan of Olaf. I thought like
Olaf's a great writer. Was a
great
great
writer. Like loved his books, like his whole kind of vibe. I liked everything, and then it was like,
That's it. Well, sure. Look, I mean, I know you don't be on social media over the weekends, but like,
No.
Irish stand-up comedy has completely imploded because of allegations. Me Too has rocked Irish comedy, which is good. There's going to be a lot of change, and hopefully the scumbags who are involved won't ever be able to show their faces again. And yeah, good. And then it started at stand-up comedy, and then it went into like music and theatre and some actors and stuff like that. So I'll send
within the comics as well, because there was a kind of a bombshell, and I don't know enough about it, so I'm not going to talk about it. But there was there's a bombshell of a particular high-ranking, well-known individual in comics has come out as not being great, to the point that even Frank Miller got on Twitter to kind of disavow himself from it, like so. Yeah,
Frank. I know. Refresh me. Frank Miller doesn't have a good rep at all, does he?
Frank Miller kind of lost his mind and became, I suppose, Islamophobic or kind of that kind. But But like then everyone kind of went, oh, hold on. When you read his comics, why are we surprised? Like when you read The Dark Knight Returns and you see the entire like he's pro-Reagan stance he has in it, and then you go, oh, we thought it was a joke. I go, oh no, he actually believes that's what he believes.
No, he's definitely a fascist. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
but I think he got really sick because did you ever see the photos? And then the next time you see him, he looks like he was 912. And he's like, so, but he's kind of come out and he seems to be making a bit more sense, and people seem to like him again. So whatever sense was going on during that, he might have.
Well, I mean, it's a low bar these days. You know what I mean?
Tell me, man.
Basically, it's kind of like, don't rape anyone. Okay, I can do that.
I know, like, but it's like, there was someone else then I was seeing that came out as well over the, I was talking to, I can't remember, but it was more like a kind of going, it was Warren Ellis in comics. Do you know Warren Ellis? He was a guy, he's another thing that happened last week.
That's the chap I like, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Trans-Metropolitan and
yeah,
preacher.
So he sent out a weekly email, which I get, the newsletter. He was kind of the first person I was aware of who did this kind of newsletter based around himself rather than, trying to sell you a computer. Computer, that type of thing. But it was just kind of going, stuff has come out, and I've obviously, it's read very similar to like the, the standard type Louis C.K. type announcement after, thing. I was like, and I have to do better, and I apologise. I was going, what's this? What's going on here? So straight on to Bleeding Cool. And seemingly he was grooming women. That was word, I don't know if it quite fits, but he was pretending he was going to mentor to them and bring them into comics so he could have sex with them. And then soon, he dropped them. And I was kind of going, right, shitty assholic behaviour, absolutely, 100%. But is it the same as raping someone? Is it a sexual abuse? Is it, is it
Tommie,
the same?
Tommie, stop. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's the same, yeah.
Is it? Well, please, tell me why it is.
It's pretty bad, Tommie.
No, explain why. Genuinely, I'm not kind of asking the question, and I don't know the answer. So I want you to explain to me why it's different from just being an asshole. Like, why is? Let me see. Why is the Louis C.K., the Warren Ellis, that thing the same as going up to someone and physically doing it? Like, what is?
Rape is obviously worse because there's.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But
there's the violence of it. Well, I mean, the thing is that, you see, with the Louis C.K. stuff, it's like, who was it? Someone said something really funny about it recently. Bill Burr. Bill Burr was like, just hang up the fucking phone.
Yeah.
Hilarious. No, but the thing with the grooming is that, like, is that it's just the women. I mean, I'm fucking speaking for women here. I don't speak for anyone except for myself, like, right? So let's get that out of the way first. But my interpretation of it is that it's just a thing of power. You know, the guy's in power. He has control over me. He's manipulating me. And the only way that I can get ahead, or not I can get ahead, but the only way I can get out of this is I either go to the cops and fucking tell, and they're not going to do anything because there's no physical proof and it's hearsay. You know, I said this, he said that. So, but then there's also that, okay, so I fuck him, and then what he promises me will happen, or it doesn't happen, and I've had sex with a creep. So, yeah.
No, yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I think it's absolutely 100% shitty behaviour. It's just kind of the category of shitty behaviour.
There is not a counter argument, but there is some reaction to what's going on in stand-up comedy, in that, like, people are saying that a lot of male comics that run nightclubs and stuff now are quite nervous. And it's like, okay, but, like, we're going to have to define somehow, like, where's the line here? Like, what's inappropriate and what's just, like, someone's shitty chat-up tactic?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't know about you, but, like, I know I've woken up beside women the next morning and just gone, oh, God, what was I thinking? And not because I did anything bad, but it's because I was just molested. You know? Honestly, like, Coppers, and anyone knows Coppers in Dublin, like, it's just a fucking meat market. And when it comes to, like, 15 minutes before the end of beer being served, like, there's just muckers from Tipperary, and there's such fucking farmer women that their welting marks have been imprinted on their fucking legs, but they just rape you. Do you know? It's literally, they do, like, they just grab you and they're snogging you, and you're drunk, so you're like, fuck, go home. Like, you go home and you ride her, and the next day you're just like, oh God, what the fuck did I do that for? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but sure, like, I mean, just like, what's, like, where am I on this? Like, do I count that as rape? Do I count that as being molested? What do I do? Like, what am I supposed to do with that?
I've definitely had incidents when I'm drunk of women doing things to me that if I did to them, I would go to prison for.
Ooh, I can't wait till we stop recording.
No, but it's like similar stuff to what you're saying about with your thing, like whatever, like just being drunk and kind of, you know, being
taken advantage of.
I like being felt up, or, you know, my clothes being taken off, or all of that kind of stuff. When it, you know, and it's like, I don't know. It's a very hard subject as well to talk about, because there's so many kind of arguments you can get into. There's so many kind of reactions people have that, and it's one of the things I find hard with online culture, is that you can't, like, that saying that thing where I said earlier on, it's like, I don't know where that fits, without immediately be going, unless I know where that fits or where that's correct to fit and all of those things, that I'm somehow a bad person because my knowledge isn't complete on it. You know, that you're meant to know this is bad and this is why it's bad. This is bad. This is what, you know, and it's kind of like, I don't know all the rules anymore.
Yeah, but sure, that's why like those things, those like consent classes were brought into colleges and all. And like people were like, oh, they shouldn't do it. Like, fuck you, why shouldn't they do it? Of course you should do it. Everyone should know where the line is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you do know where the line, like we were always told growing up, when a girl says no, she means no. Fine. Yeah. Okay. But like, what about when a guy says no? That was never taught to us. That was just like, you know, fucking man up and fucking do her in the pussy. You know, okay. All right, I did it, but like, I feel shitty after it. But whatever, like, shit happened. I don't carry it around with me. To be honest, I haven't thought about it in years. This brought up, but like, it's far worse for women. Like, I can't compare it. Like, I can't compare it.
Like those incidents that we were talking about, whatever, definitely did not have the impact on me that it would have had on a woman. I don't think. You know, it's like. So it is different, even though it's the same.
Yeah, sure, men are horrible. Like, I mean, fucking hell. Like, I've been with Aga 15 years or so, but sure, like, you know, when our younger days, we'd be going to nightclubs and all that, and like people would be grabbing her. Actually, there's a lad you know that I know, and he was on the other side. You know that story, yeah. Every time we'd go out, he'd try and fucking slap the gob on her. I'm just like, what the fuck is this guy's problem? And I'd say it to like our in-between friend, and he's like, look, don't, because he has this thing and this thing. He's like, so fucking what? That doesn't excuse something. Do you know, he's not disabled. He's just a prick. Do you know? And even if he was disabled, that's not a fucking... Anyway, whatever. Look, whatever. People are going to know who he is now, so sorry. No, but like, yeah, no, it's far worse for them. So like, I mean, I just fair play to the women in Irish comedy and theatre and music who are standing up and just saying, nah, enough of this bullshit. And fucking name them. Fuck it. And I don't agree with this cancel culture. I don't like that. But like these fellas who have been doing this, they've been doing it for quite a long time, and they're just scumbags. You know?
I tell you may just tell me what's going on with the frames, because I mean, it's not as if you haven't.
No. I won't, Tommie, because I've only seen one person name them and name a few people, because everyone is afraid of the defamation thing, because there's one fella involved who does, like, he is really, really litigious. He will go after you.
Right.
So I'm not going to mention that. Sorry.
No, that's fine,
anyone wants to know, message me. I'll tell you in private. But I'm not.
Yeah. I'll wear a T-shirt that says it, but
But then, like, I mean, I looked it up. Even I was tempted to be like, oh yeah, I can do this in Poland. But I looked up Poland's defamation thing. Like, nah. It's.
I thought it was defamation only if it's a lie, though. Like if it's the truth.
Yeah. How do you prove it, though?
Oh, right, okay. Because everyone else is in. Because I read it on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, you know.
I know. Sometimes I think all of these things are overly complicated, and I know that's myself, because again I was asking the question what box does all that fit into, but it's just like you would think, could people just not be cool, you know? But then you kind of go, well, I'm sure I have done stuff that's shitty that I thought was all right.
Of course,
in the time,
people can be cool, but see the problem. I think one problem is that, like, you know, over time, people. Let's say you're a booker of a comedy club, not in Galway,
okay,
right? Mayo. And let's say you've been doing it for 20, 30, 40 odd years or something. Your position is fairly high. You know what I mean? Like, you are the gatekeeper of comedy in that place. You know? So you have power, and you have power over women, and you can say, and you can dictate who will or will not get a gig just depending on your mood and how you interacted with them, rather than how they interact with you, rather than them being fucking funny, which is what's supposed to be what it's about.
Yeah.
You know, so
that's the thing with Warren Ellis, is that he's in a position to actually elevate someone's career.
Of course he is.
I'm not disputing that, but that's the problem. Like, if it was someone who wasn't in that position of power who did the same thing, it's not the same thing. Is that right? All right.
Yeah.
It's the position of power, which is the reason the Louis C.K. thing. It's the position he's in.
Exactly. Yeah.
More than the behavior, because the behavior's shitty too. Like, in a sense of, like, if you're, you know.
See, Louis is so tricky, because, like, for some people it's just like, oh my god, it's not this kind of thing. But, like, for me, it's like, he had a wank, you know. And even, like, to hear Sarah Silverman talk about it, it's hilarious, because she's like, yeah, he's done it, like, for me a few times, and, like, I've said no a few times. I said yes a few times, because it's like, whatever. It's just a jerk. She's just jerking off, as she calls it. So it's all a personal thing, isn't it? Like, I'd be pretty freaked out if someone wanted to have a wank in front of me. But, you know, if it was like one of the amazingly good-looking, gorgeous stand-up comedian females who wanted to do it, and I was single, I'd be like, all right, okay, you can do that. I'm going to tell everyone about this, because no one will believe me anyway. Do you know?
But what if it was Louis C.K.?
It was Louis C.K. Oh my god!
I don't know.
But, like, he's such an ugly fucker, isn't he? He's so ugly. You know, he's the most Irish man that's not Irish you'll ever see. You know, he's just fat and red and freckly and oh god, yeah. I mean, if you put a cabbage in his hand, he'd be fucking Shawnee or Shocknessy or Toolabon or whatever. I don't know. It's just weird, you know. Like, I thought a lot of this stuff had not gone, but I thought there was less of it going on than what is going on, and then there's loads of these stories, and you're just like, wow, what the fuck is going on? And then some of it is only like you see some of the to and froing on it, and they're like, you know, even like some women stepping in against the women making allegations, and they're just like, no, that's just him. He's crappy at chatting up women. He's not. You know, he didn't mean nothing by it, and you're like, well, I mean, it's all interpretation, and it's mental, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the best thing to do is just never ever talk to a woman when you have alcohol. Never. Don't do it. There's no point. Let them come to you. That's what I used to do.
Right.
And they will.
How'd that work out, Phil?
Fine. I ended up marrying one.
That's what I used to do too. Yeah, geez, I was single for a long time.
Actually, yeah, no, not at all. I instigated the agate thing. No, but I don't know. Just be sound. You know, don't be a dickhead. Just Just be nice. It's easy. I never had a problem getting women anyway. Jesus Christ, just fucking talk, listen, ask interesting questions. Be interesting, be cool, be sound. You know?
You see, I mean, like, that's hard, man.
It's hard to be... Well, if it's hard to be sound, then you need to do a lot of fucking work on yourself. Jesus, go read some fucking shadow work stuff. I don't know. Jesus.
Clean your room.
Like, yeah, go clean your room. How can you not be sound? Everyone can be sound. Be sound. It's easy, you know? It's far easier to be sound than to be a dickhead. Isn't it?
I think so. Like, I mean, all joking aside, I do think so. But I mean, it's obviously not because there's so many dickheads, and they're obviously getting some sort of pleasure out of it, or it's I don't know. I'm glad in many ways that it's all coming out, but like horrified that it's all coming out. You know, that kind of a way that there's all this kind of, and everything is kind of getting thrown up in the air between I mean, from the pandemic to the race war in America to, the resurgence of Me Too or whatever next week brings, but it would be great if we could sort something out, you know what I mean? Like if we could actually, rather than, next year we have the new crop of Me Too coming out where, it's...
I was reading something on because most of the football is back now, yeah? I think all of it's back now, except the ones who have said they're not coming back. And there was a good article about Italian football, because Italian football has a lot of race problems, like it really does. It's really common for black players to get booed at other when they're the away team, but also even like Mario Balotelli, you probably recognize his name. He even gets booed by his own team. It's bizarre. But since Italian football has returned, it seems that it has stopped quite suddenly. And someone was talking about it, saying, "Well, look, I mean, the Black Lives Matter thing has really brought it home to people that like it's nonsense. What your skin color is, we should all be equal." But also, and then another fella made the argument is like, well, look, COVID's been such a leveler because it attacks everyone. Everyone gets this thing, and okay, maybe you don't get sick from it, but you still have it and pass it on. So psychologically, it's a bit like the end of the John Higgs book. It's a bit like, well, psychologically, like this could lead on to a much better world because people will realize, okay, we're not different. We're actually in this together, so hopefully, Yeah,
I thought we'd go into a new world after the lockdown ended.
It's not over yet, man. You know what I mean? It's not, well, I suppose it is over, but I mean, if what comes out of it, that people aren't racist anymore, or there's less racism, well, fucking hell, fine.
Do you think it will come out that people will be less racist, or just it'll be, like a shining beacon on them? All right, there's no hiding it anymore, or
I think it's going to take a generation or two to die off. To be honest, it's a bit like here in Poland. The Catholic Church is still quite strong, but only among, the people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on that go. Not young people. It's like in Ireland, except it's not as bad as in Ireland, because in Ireland it was the sexual abuse that rocked it. Poland's had some abuse cases and stuff. Obviously, all Catholic countries have, but it wasn't as systematic as say Ireland.
Right.
So there's not been massive things where it's turned against. But then there was stuff like the abortion thing a while ago, where women would sit in the church for 5 or 10 minutes and then they'd stand up and all walk out, kind of stuff. That's great, really powerful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think racism ain't going to end, but I don't think there'll be racism in 100 years. Put it that way.
Cool.
Hope not.
Hope. Yeah.
But we won't be here.
Well, you never know. You don't know what scientific marvels are going to emerge.
I'd take that pill. If someone says, here's a pill, you can be immortal. Yes, I'm doing that.
Don't want that one at all. No, thank you. Keep it. Shove that pill up your own backside, please.
Ah, man, I'd take that.
You know why? Because there's probably a chip in it. There's some sort of 5G element to it, and you're going to be tracked, and you're going to become part of big data Russia. And
I take it and I just travel, because I'm like, okay, I'm not going to die, so I can literally live under a bridge anywhere. I'll be
Oh, well, you
grand.
see, that's not how immortality would work. Immortality would just mean you not die of old age, but you still die if someone stabs you, or you still die.
No, I'm not signing up to that.
Right.
No. I'm like, just can't die. Like,
Yeah.
I can do anything.
No. See, you take the immortality pill, and then someone would immediately cut off your arms and legs and poke at your eyes, and you go, there you go, millions of years like this. No, that's not what I signed up for.
No, they wouldn't. No. I'd like jump off mountains and shit. Like, you know, take up a fucking BMX and be like, watch this, bitches. I'm gonna BMX off of fucking the Himalayas, whatever that one is called. What's it called? Everest. Fuck you.
Everest.
I'm gonna fucking BMX off Everest and watch me, and then just clatter myself the whole way down, and then at the bottom just be like, oh, all right, I'm grand.
Did you ever see the old Twilight Zone episode where the guy, it's probably your man, what's his name, Meredith? That guy who was Penguin, he's in the 60s Batman, he's in loads of the old Twilight Zones, it might have been him, but he becomes immortal. So he starts jumping out windows and jumping under trains and all that.
I like it.
But he's getting sick of the whole idea. Spoilers, by the way, but it's like a 90-year-old program at this point. So he says, what's the ultimate thing? So he murders someone so that he'll be, given the electric chair. But he gets life in prison instead. Brooks Meredith. That's the name.
I have no idea.
He's also that one, that
thing.
horrifying one that just is that all he wanted was time so he could read. And eventually, the world ends, and when he finds the library and he finds all the books, and he's leaning over to read the first book, and his glasses fall off and smash. No! Twilight Zone was horrible.
Yeah, Twilight Zone was horrible. I still remember the doll one. The doll was talking to someone. The doll was talking to him the whole time. It was fucking weird. It was the first thing to do that.
Yeah, and those, a lot of them, like, you kind of, a lot of these things ended up being like morality plays. But the Twilight Zone wasn't really. It was just like, no, weird shit's going to happen here. That's it.
Yeah. Tales from the Crypt was like that. That was decent. So, but that's when, that was in the 90s, so we would have been young. My memories of that are good. Maybe it was terrible, but I remember it being good.
And then you have the 1980s Twilight Zone. Bruce Willis is in one that I can remember of, where he has a mark on his head. So if you do some crime, rather than going to prison, they put a mark in your head so people aren't allowed to talk to you, or they just ignore you and pretend you're not there. And of course he finds a blind woman and start getting on, and it goes from there. Just, and then she gets in trouble for talking to the rejected person or whatever.
They used to do that in the Middle Ages, didn't they? Some countries.
Yeah, the black spot.
Yeah. They still do it in Saudi Arabia. Well, they do. Well, they cut off your hand if you steal shit.
Yeah, that was what, when the internet came out first, and there was like, was it rotten.com or something like that?
Yeah, God,
all of these, like, people getting run over by trains, all of this stuff. But one of the first kind of horrifying things I've seen was a guy getting his hand cut off, and then they burn the hand to cauterize it. It's like, oh.
Oh, they did. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah.
Thanks, Tommie.
Yeah, there's so, like, that can't unsee stuff. There's just so much stuff on Reddit that I just go, I'm not looking at that.
I remember that.
Never want to see that.
Gore galleries, like the lads, the nerdy lads in school would, like, because all the computers were networked together, so someone figured out how to put stuff on your screen even though they were like a couple of rows away.
Right.
And Gore galleries was always one. Tupac's dead body and Kurt Cobain with his head blown off. Just rotten stuff, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Idiots. Boys are idiots. They really fucking are, like. Just awful.
But then you see things that people put on Facebook, like puppies being eaten by snakes. Have you seen that? That's a horrible
one. No. What kind of people are you friends with?
Oh, it's like, I don't know. I have a very different experience than you, I feel, on Facebook. I don't know. Although you did get a glimpse of it, I think, over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Chaos Magic and all that stuff. No, I think I joined. I think I'm only in one of them still. The one that's not too bad. And then, most of these landscape fucking photography and,
whatever algorithm has come up on Facebook, I'm enjoying it at the minute because I'm getting back into obviously the music, as I've been talking about. But so they've been sending me like ads for effects pedals and guitars and software. I go, cool, I want to know about this rather than the useless shite that they usually send me. It's kind of well, a lot of the things that we worry about, I think, are kind of if we trusted our reptilian overlords, they're actually cool, in one way. Like the whole chip thing would be great, other than, can't trust the government. Because, no more missing children, no more missing people, no more murders, there could be murders, but you know exactly who's done it. Because, there's so many good things, about these things, and the same like, being tracked and personalized ads and all that. Yeah, or actually getting advertised to you stuff you want rather than the. But it's just, it's horrible too at the same time because they know so much about you. But if you go into Facebook, someone pointed this out to me, and you go in and there's a link. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's what Facebook thinks you're into. And you go into it, and it's horribly wrong. It's terribly, and everyone who goes in, it's terribly wrong. Every now and again, there'll be one guy go, "Oh no, this is perfect," and you go, "All right, you're on Facebook way too much then." But it's like they were into like things like thought I was into the stock exchange. They thought women's fashion. So I don't know. Maybe they know something I don't know. But and then kind of like a load of bands that I'm not into or hadn't even heard about or stuff like that. So I don't know. Big data is great and all that, but it's not that accurate as of yet. Or at least this is what they're telling you to know about you, perhaps behind it
yeah, I wonder what was that
that
female face thing about? Because like it came out that the one like what was the 10-year one? What you looked like 10 years ago? That came out that was an AI thing. So
it's exactly the same company as well. Like I mean, it's
so and everyone fell for this again, like.
Oh yeah, including myself. But my point is. Not my point, my kind of thing is I'm on Facebook and people like a couple of people are going, oh, big data have you're on Facebook.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like what? And I mean, true, like, and it's not as if like William Shatner had is in it and he's like nothing he could do about it. There's nothing like I did your photo, I didn't post it on Facebook, but like it's in whoever, it's like, so I mean, like it's not as if you've control over it anyway. So all they would have to do is take everyone's driving license and put it through this filter anyway. The only thing you kind of have is a swarm agent kind of thing of where, you're using the processing power of everyone else's rather than a kind of centralized processing doing all these different things. But yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting the whole facial recognition thing that it was so pushed and so worried about, and it's still, do you see Russia's one, what they're calling it? Orwell? Classy Russia. Keep it classy, as always. They're a fascinating country. But yeah, and then there's this equal push of, face masks. So it seems, I don't know, it's almost as if there isn't a centralized conspiracy to control the world. It's very odd, that, isn't it? Like,
very odd, yeah. It's just like, it's completely clueless, rudderless even,
Yeah.
Totally is, like, like, I mean, yeah, I've totally gone on them now because it's just like no one. How many people do you know like couldn't even organise a fucking piss up in Guinnesses?
Oh yeah.
It must be very useless,
Or even down to like a simple. And I know people say, "Oh, it's not the government; it's the people above it." But it's still the civil servant kind of element that has to, roll it out.
Yeah.
And I know when Vanessa, because she's has a preschool, so that, they're separate from the school system. And I know that there was, during the COVID, the way their payments had to be worked out is that this department said, well, this is how we're going to pay you, and this is what you do. So everyone signed up for that, blah, blah, blah. And then there was an email a week and a half later going, yeah, so we forgot to mention that to revenue, and they've said no. So it's like the government themselves can't even organise stuff. And you know yourself, like if you've ever been on the dole, like how the health board and the social welfare are so similar and they have to be able to talk to each other, but at the time didn't have a centralised computer system, so they couldn't talk to each other.
Of course, yeah. Geniuses. Absolute geniuses, and they're just like, and we let them away with it because we're too busy watching YouTube. Here, I've gone pretty big over the weekend into your man, Damien Echols. He's
oh, yeah. He's great.
I'd hate to have a pint with him though.
Why?
I'd say he's too fucking intense, man.
He is intense, but like
he's really intense.
Yeah, how could you not? But he's so like, I suppose, so it comes across very gentle as well and very kind of calm. Like he'd be a very but that's my thing of how I could judge a relationship is like, what would he be like if you sitting beside me at a wedding? I go, that would be a weird wedding. Damien Echols go, right, yeah. So
he'd be telling you all
that row, yeah. Magic, just, right.
He'd go through all the symbolism of every single little aspect of a Christian wedding. So he would, well, then again, maybe would have. I'd heard the name, and then something popped up on my feed. Eddie Vedder had done an interview with him, so I listened to that.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it's fairly rare, because Eddie Vedder doesn't speak a lot in it. The first 5 minutes he does, he has to get some stuff out of the way. But then, I think he only asked 3 or 4 questions for the whole hour. And Echols, just lets loose. And, there's obviously a couple of females. What's a fanboy? What's a female fanboy? No idea.
Fanboy, I think,
Fangirl.
is it?
Fangirl. Idiot. Jesus. And they're like, they do this really annoying American thing of like, someone says something vaguely interesting, and then they're like, "Wah!"
Yeah.
And
The Comic
shut
Con
the fuck
effect.
up. Shut the fuck up and let them talk. So there's 2 women in the crowd who completely spoiled it for everyone. But other than that, it's pretty good. So I'm watching some of his videos, and interesting fella. I had heard of him from Pearl Jam stuff before, because I know they were involved with him and his 2 what were they called? Something 3, West Washington 3, West. I don't
The
remember.
Westboro.
Like the church?
Isn't it the Westboro Tree? Is that what it is? I don't know. Whatever. It's the Paradise Lost documentary.
Yeah. So I know that because Eddie Vedder does
I don't
tons
know
of
if it is
stuff
Westboro.
he does tons of stuff for people on death row and all like that.
Right.
So he had been mentioning. I hadn't known the name, but I had no idea he was into magic and stuff. And then
He's in
watching the videos.
one of the episodes of Duncan Trussell's TV show, that cartoon. He's one of
Yeah,
them.
I'll give
And
it a go.
he's been interviewed. His books, he's 2 good audiobooks of his. One is his book on magic, and then it's kind of a workbook as well. I'm on his Patreon as well, and he does like 3 or 4 posts every day on like
Really?
not kind of and it's not like the David Lynch stuff. If you watch any of that, where he's going yes, and it looks like there is rain coming up later. And that's it. 20-second videos. But it's like proper in-depth, either a video or a big long piece, and you're kind of, so that most people would do once a week. It's like,
Yeah.
But it's brilliant. But there's so much that I'm just, I'm never going to be caught up with all of this ever.
Yeah, but he's so fucking dedicated. There's probably enough stuff we could probably get a whole podcast out of it on him. But like he was saying that he does 8-10 hours a day of magic. Wow.
Yeah.
Like wow. I'm like I ask my angel for maybe a minute something in the morning, but other than that, I've work and stuff, and children.
Oh yeah.
It's like 8 hours to study every day and to make money off it, man. Fair fucking play to you. Well done.
Yeah. This was catching up in last time too. What would be the story? And I'm not I assume he would have had to have some sort of settlement for being put in prison and that row.
No. They did that thing. I don't remember the name of the plea. It has a certain name anyway. And what you do is you stand up in front of the judge and you say, "I'm pleading guilty, but and I know, and all them know I didn't do it." And the judge says, "Okay, you've served your time, and this means you can't sue us."
Wankers.
Yeah.
Ah, man.
Yeah.
I suppose at the same time you go,
But
I'm getting out.
What was he in there for? 10, 12 years? I don't remember. You wouldn't be bothered suing. You'd be just like, get me the fuck out of here. I have enough.
Yeah. But it'd be nice to get a couple of million too at the same time.
Yeah, of course it would. But but then he'd have had to fight it all over again.
Yeah, I've only seen the first Paradise Lost documentary back in the day, and I keep meaning to watch the other 2. The third one's meant to be quite good, which is kind of them getting out as far as or maybe the aftermath or something. But
yeah, I don't remember seeing any of them, but I had a look up on the evidence and stuff, and it looks like the dads or the uncle of the guy who was killed, it looks like they were involved, totally.
Oh,
involved.
right. Yeah, so we did watch one documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on, what is it? 38 minutes. That's a new record.
A record, is it?
Maybe not. No, I think Crowley was actually more than that. We talked a bit more. So this one we watched The Challenge of Rudolf Steiner, which is a 2-part BBC documentary, both an hour and a half long, so it gives a 3 hour in totality. And it's an interesting documentary in that it's not necessarily a kind of a story of his life. It's kind of more the impact of what Rudolf Steiner has done on the people he uses kind of teachings day to day, interspersed with kind of facts and tidbits about Rudolf Steiner more than a kind of a bio kind of thing. Yeah. And it's all the better for it, I think, because it kind of it shows the complete practicality of, in a sense, or the of his teachings more than what his books, because his books are notoriously terrible to understand, terribly difficult to understand, very obtuse, very kind of weird, and even the people who love Rudolf Steiner find them very hard to digest. And going by the documentary, everyone who's living the Rudolf Steiner kind of, or the Waldorf schools, or the biodynamic farming, and they go, "So, have you read his books?" "Well, I find his books quite hard to read, so I haven't read any of them." But they're completely living the life. Had you heard of Rudolf Steiner before this?
Never. And I'm glad you told me about him. I fucking love this fella.
Yeah,
What amazing.
dude, isn't he? Yeah.
What a dude.
When,
And you know what? On the book thing, I did try and listen to a couple of chapters of an audiobook.
Right.
And it was just that, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because it's translated from German. No,
Austrian, isn't it? Did you write in
same
German,
language. They speak German in Austria. You don't know that? Yeah.
Is that part, yeah.
They don't have a
assumed
language.
that there was an Austrian. There you go.
No.
I think you know things and you're not.
Yeah, no, they'd have a dialect, all right, but it's
okay.
not that different.
Oh,
Anyway.
then I'm vindicated.
So, I don't know, like maybe, like imagine if let's say Charles Dickens' books, they're around the same age, so they were translated at the time into that German, and then German readers are to read it to be like, oh my god, this is so fucking boring.
Right, yeah.
So I reckon the books suffer a lot from that, in that they haven't been updated into maybe a modern English. I'd say that's, like, I was bored off my fucking mind listening to this audio book.
Yeah.
And I think Steiner's a genius, like, the stuff.
Because Young would be somewhat contemporary too, and while his books are heavy, they're readable. Like they're not like they're dense, obviously in places, but they're not. They don't have the same, I don't know, intensity maybe as what my very brief.
Maybe it's just the kind of, I suppose Young was kind of, he was writing for everyone rather than, like, Steiner was really only writing for academia and stuff, wasn't he?
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
Nietzsche had a bit of that. Nietzsche's books are a cunt to read. You know?
Yeah.
So
And I suppose being that he is coming from the Theosophy stuff, which is the we're going to talk about her next week, maybe Helena Petrova Blavatsky. Those books are kind of written in that kind of way as well. Like they're slightly more accessible in places, but it's that kind of a style to it, you know. And again, as you said, with a translation in a different language, it would probably just come across. The only person I know who has read a lot of Steiner and kind of has studied him is Conor Habib. Have you ever come across Conor Habib?
No.
He is an ex-gay porn star who got heavily into the occult. And he's actually living in Ireland now, and he'd be a well-known kind of guy in the scene. He's been on the Rune Soup podcast a lot. He's kind of very focal for sex workers' rights and stuff like that and thing. But he's big into Rudolf Steiner, and he's read a couple of the books, and he's the only person I know who actually has read them and would have the kind of a understanding of them as well.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't mind taking one on, but to be honest, like, I mean, my big thing with it would be the kind of farming and the planting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like, I don't need to read his books to get that, because there's so much information out there. I mean, I was Googling up, like, farms to buy cow shit from after watching this. Like,
and the horns.
And the horns, yeah. And there's only one. It seems in Poland there's only one farm that does this, and I don't think they have any animals. But you can buy the prepared. What the fuck's a prepared? You can. It's French.
It's Austrian.
Which actually,
it's native Austrian language.
There's a couple of websites. There's a British website and a French website where you can buy the cow shit for the mixture. This is going to sound bonkers to people who don't know. So basically, he came up with farming. He came up with a couple of, like,
preparation 500 and 501.
There's 500 and 500, but then there's other ones that they have as well, from nettles and chamomile and blah, blah. So anyway, so 500. I was explaining this to Aga, and she was like, "Oh my god, what did I marry?" She was like, that were her exact words, and she said, "I can't believe I promised I'd stay with you." She was like, "You're going to grow your beard, you're going to dress all in white, and you're just going to go live in a fucking cabin, aren't you?" And I was like, yeah. And then I was explaining it to an Irish friend of mine who lives here, and his wife is mad into slow life and growing as many of her own crops as she can, you know. And I was telling him this method, and he's just looking at me as if I was fucking bonkers insane. But so anyway, what you do is you take cow shit. And you, first of all, you have to have cows with horns, okay? Because most people saw the horns off the cows, because that way cows need less personal space when they don't have the horns. So you can get more of them into factories, or more of them into farms, more of them into milking parlours.
My question was that, do all cows have horns? Because, like, the Irish cows that are out in the field, has my local farmer cut them off? Like,
he's cut them off, yeah.
I didn't know that. That's... It's like the equivalent of taking a cat's whiskers. It's like that they use it similar for spatial recognition.
Yeah,
and stuff
exactly.
But there's some sort of emotional element to it as well that Steiner thinks.
Well, yeah, that's what Steiner would say anyway. But I don't know enough about that. But like, I did notice though, and because I used to go to Austria a lot, and
did you speak Austrian or German?
I speak Austrian when I go to Austria, and I know a couple of farmers there, and all the cows in Austria that I've ever seen all have their horns. So maybe they're all doing the Steiner. And I've been looking around here as well, and some farmers leave them on and some don't. But anyway.
Yeah.
So when you send them off to slaughter, you get the horns sent back, or else you cut them off yourself or whatever. And then you do the mad thing. You get their shit, and you put it and you stuff it into the horns, and then you bury it over the winter, and then you come back after the winter.
No, but you have to explain why you buried it over the winter. It's because that's the best time to absorb the life energy crystals of the universe.
Yeah.
And that could,
yeah. That's
so
a bit,
it's absorbing.
that's a bit mad.
It's absorbing some sort of that kind of thing of vril or chi or some that kind of unknown ether type thing that he says is part of. That's very much
dark
part
matter.
of philosophy. Not that.
Like,
well, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, it was for me. It was kind of smart because like, okay, you put it in the horn because the horn is made of calcium, and the calcium won't biodegrade in the ground. If you just put cow shit in the ground, it'll be gone like a couple of months later. So you dig it up then and you scoop it out, and then you put it into water, mix it. He has a weird thing about mixing it, but whatever. And
for an hour.
You have to do it for an hour, 100 times to the right, then 100 times to the left, then 100 to the right, and fuck that. Like who has the time for that? But then you spray this on your ground and on your plants and on your fruit and trees and all this kind of stuff. And the yields are supposed to be fantastic. And then there's another one later in the year that you do, which is made a different way. But like I'm like, yeah, man, I'm fucking trying that next year for sure. Like, and even like remember the wine? There was the wine grower. He was saying like they used to do the normal method, and every year the farm was getting smaller because of just poison they were putting into the ground. I know it's a bit different in America than in Europe. Like American farmers are far more lackadaisical with what they put into the ground. It's not nearly the same in Europe at all. Monsanto don't own Europe yet, and they never will. Like thanks to like German and French farmers in particular, just saying no, fuck off, But anyway, he was saying that once they tried this biodynamic way of farming, like the yields have gone up and the place is just full of life and the soil has changed its like natural pH back to what it should be. And like I was just watching, this guy's fucking genius, like, And I looked a bit further into it as well, like when you buy a seed packet in a garden centre or whatever,
sure,
and it tells you on the back when to plant it.
Yeah,
that comes from him.
Oh, really?
If you bought seeds 100 years ago, like you was just like, you're supposed to do it then, but and he's like, no, this is from him. But then like you're also supposed to do it in like in the star sign of the plant and the moon and all that stuff. And now the moon thing I get, I can get that because the tides and the planet and the pulling and the gravity, and it's supposed to pull more life out of the out of the seed, and it's supposed to pull the soil a bit away from the seed and all that. So I mean, there is some logic to it. Like,
one way you can look at the kind of the astrology kind of thing of it is that it's all cycles and these representing. So it's not necessarily that, if you plant it in when Mars is in the right thing, it's like that's just the right time for it rather than Mars necessarily having going
Exactly. I mean, there's no point in fucking. There's no point in planting carrots in July because you're going to have mush in December. Like you do it at the start of the year so that you have them for the summer. I mean, it does make sense, but like before him, it seems that there was knowledge from the farmers, but there wasn't like a well-known kind of knowledge of this kind of stuff, And
I suppose it's kind of because it's so woo-woo and it's definitely though the proof is in the pudding in that it like. You can believe whatever you want. It works, and here's the kind of, and for the fact that most of the people who are doing the farming don't really know the theory behind it, or as we were saying. Although some of them do seem when your man interviews a couple of the people that do, he asks them some kind of a bit more detailed question, and they do seem to have a bit of kind of understanding of the kind of
Yeah, one fella looked awful uncomfortable answering it because he's like, "Oh God, everyone's gonna know I'm into star signs now."
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. My favorite character of it is the kind of the Bob Geldof looking type dude, the English guy who's like he's got a doctorate of religion and a doctorate or master's in something else, but makes a living as a gardener. I just thought,
yeah.
And he goes out gardening and he's like in a suit, but it's like 6 sizes too big for him, and he's just kind of yes. And
oh man, it's my dream job, man.
And he says, so for the first half an hour when I go to these gardens, I go in and just stay with one plant, just talk to it, have a look, and that sets you up for the day. And I go, yes, man, yeah, I can understand.
I love that. Absolutely love it. I was out putting a fence up in the garden today because we're getting a dog soon.
Oh, cool.
So I'm fencing off all the plants so he doesn't destroy them, piss on them or whatever. But like, I was just sitting there going, this is fucking lovely. Like the bees were all over the place. I just got, oh man, that Steiner fella, man, he's fucking onto something. I was thinking as well, like I'd imagine, like one of the best jobs in the world must be like a landscape gardener. Like, it has to be.
Well, I only knew one landscape gardener and he hated it because he said it's mostly about digging and pulling stones out of the ground. It's very little about actually planting roses or bushes or that kind of stuff. It's all very.
God, you're just full of joy today, aren't you?
That was him. Other people's experiences.
Yeah. I knew a fella in Austria. He was a German fella. He used to do it, and he was the most chronic fucking weed smoker I've ever met in my life. He was an absolute legend. He loved it. But like there's other stuff of Steiner's which like I wasn't so gone on, like the whole like he invented a dance, and that
that you were saying that the whole kind of you're saying I'm into it other than that ballet shite and I not
don't care.
But like, I'd say I'm not into dancing. I
hate dancing.
But an awful lot of that, I assume the influence of that is that whole kind of Sufi stuff, which is that. You know, that it involves a lot of that kind of movement as well.
Yeah, look, I don't understand Sufism. Yeah. What is this?
It's the mystical side of Islam, basically. Kind of, it's like that. It's a form of mystical.
And who are the Sufis? Are Sufis different from Muslims?
It's. I suppose it's like. I could be wrong, but this is my understanding of like. So you have Islam, which would be the equivalent of Christian, and then you have like the sects. So if Sufis would be one and Protestant would be something, right. But it's a Sufis or like kind of a mystic, a more mystical approach to kind of thing. That's as far as the only kind of real Rumi would have been a sort of a Sufi poet. That's.
Right. Okay.
My only kind of real exposure was through Peter Kingsley, and that's a white English dude, so who isn't a Sufi. But even in things like Gurdjieff, which you may or may not have heard of him.
It's the Armenian guy, isn't it?
Yeah, and one of his things is you have to earn. You're not born with a soul; you earn your soul. And it was kind of like through physical labour was one way he would approach his spirituality. So again, that's similar to the Steiner thing in that he was very into the land, but he was also into dance. That was this movement kind of thing, which I suppose you could go in the microcosm, macrocosm kind of thing. Is that it's like the dance of the heavens, the dance of the this kind of thing. But it was, I think, more just movement as a movement of energy and stuff like that. So I can understand it's part of an awful lot of occult or religious thought. Never, I'm not into dancing. I don't like Dancing with the Stars or Dancing at Ice. I don't find it entertaining. I don't find it enjoyable to do it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and that's.
I'd rather be in the band playing the music that people are dancing to.
Sure, exactly. Yeah,
do you know?
Yeah, or just band dancing because it's ridiculous.
Also, yeah.
But so I mean, there is that kind of, again, I wouldn't be going, if you were going to say like a month-long retreat of Steiner stuff and it goes, right, and this week's the dancing week, I'm going home.
I'll be back next week, lads.
Yeah. But it was like, it's mad to kind of dance, and your man, the director or the narrator, or whatever way it is, he was going like, so you're just making this up as you go along, and it's going like, no, these are all very, deliberate moves, and things going, all right, so it's like, it doesn't look it.
It looks like a really slow ballet without a lot of kicking. It's kind of graceful movements. I mean, if you're into the thing, maybe it's very nice. But I'm just like, nah, this is doing nothing for me. Like,
the schools are very interesting, though. The Waldorf Steiner schools. When Vanessa was doing her degree in childcare, Steiner comes up an awful lot in it. So he's hugely kind of influential in his kind of idea. Again, there's 2 Steiner schools in Ireland that I think that's about it. So it's not something that's huge in Ireland, but it's obviously he's big enough in influence in psychology, of children's psychology, that he's, you know, very much included.
Right. And come here, like the Montessori stuff, does that come from, 'cause I know he didn't invent Montessoriism or Montessori, but is that like really influenced by him?
Well, the Montessori stuff is that it's the same stuff done over and over again, whereas what Finesse's do more is kind of play-based, which it's children-led kind of stuff. So the Montessori stuff is very structured. So it's, you know, go in the play, and this is the, you know, tabletop time, this is what to do, this is the toys to play with, this is structure.
Oh, okay.
And then there's the kind of thing. So it's the Montessori's obviously invented by, you know, Mrs. Montessori or whatever.
Yeah.
But so I don't really know. He's, because obviously he has a kind of a structured thing to it, but he seems to be more the schools. Which, from me not being an expert, obviously would seem more that he would be more into kind of the child-led thing, because he in his schools brings in the teaching as it becomes relevant to the child. So the early part of the children is them gardening, you know, making things like, you know, so the plant the seeds, they grow the vegetables, then they make, in the example in the documentaries, they make the hut or the thing that they're going to sell, the you know, berries or whatever it is. And then as they get older, they get into slightly more stuff. So it's not kind of maths straight away, or it's not kind of, you know, vocabulary straight away. It's kind of, you know, allowing them to have a kind of a natural progression into adulthood, rather than trying to, you know, conform immediately to the, you know, the school system that we have, which was essentially creators to create factory workers. And one of the teachers, the headmaster of one of the schools, he's saying like, you know, what is the kind of a, you know, the reason for this? Why do you not bring it in early? Because, well, if you're kind of if you're trying to build a railway network, you lay the tracks first, and you don't run the trains on them until it's complete. So you have to put in the foundations of all these things rather than just attacking it straight away. But the schools seem very, I suppose, much better than the schools we went to. I think I definitely would have enjoyed it an awful lot more, and I would have got an awful lot more from it.
For sure.
And it's all about allowing the child to become who they are rather than telling them who they are, and kind of coming out of their own. Like, sounds wonderful. Like,
the schools looked awesome, yeah.
Yeah, like it'd be interesting to go to school, like, because they do take state exams obviously at the end. It'd be interesting to see what their leaving cert looks like. You know what I mean? Like,
man.
Well, everyone from Steiner just fails, or everyone from Steiner, schools get, you know, all A's. Like, it's hard to know. Like,
yeah. I was thinking as I had the exact same thought. Like, I mean, if you go to a Steiner school and then you have to do the leaving cert in like honors English, or not, well, okay, not honors English. You could do that. Honors like advanced maths, like what the fuck? You wouldn't have a clue what the fuck is going on, you know? But yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I was watching the schools and just going like, they look amazing. Like, they look brilliant. What I kind of found interesting is that a lot of the schools in England seem to be for like disadvantaged kids.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's great, I think, because it gets people, you know, like you're using your hands and your head and stuff. Because there's so many schools. Well, in Ireland, they used to be in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up, that like a lot of the schools for disadvantaged kids were just like, just fucking creches for older kids. Like, that's all they were. They weren't learning that, and it was just babysitting, you know. But like these Steiner schools, like they're learning like pottery or farming or whatever the hell it is, you know.
Yeah.
Like for someone like, it's just brilliant. Like, because for someone to say like with Down syndrome and they can leave and have a trade and go get a job and be creative, that's fucking amazing. Because like in so many countries, they're just fucking like, well, tough shit. You have to live with your mother until she's dead, and then we might give you a house, you know.
Or you go into, you know, some sort of state institution for the rest of your life, or with drug use. So you're
fucking horrible, you know. Yeah. We treat Down syndrome people like fucking. It's disgusting the way they're treated. But anyway,
like in the documentary, like they go to like it's kind of. I don't know what the correct term is. Special needs. That I don't know. Whether people with.
Yeah.
And like they're all so happy and they're all so into it and they're so proud of the work, and you know they've a real kind of lovely lease in life now. Kind of really nice, kind of positive aura and playful. And like he's even asked them, what do you know about Rudolf Steiner? And they know a bit, but they're happy enough to play along with the kind of a thing. It's just like. That's lovely. Like it's he seems to have got, rather than, you know, your armchair occultist wherever he's talking about, which he does. He talks about karma and past lives and, the ascent of man, all of that kind of stuff. But he's always go, right, what do we teach our kids? Like how do we survive? What's good at farming? What's all of these kind of things. He says a very kind of practical expression of his spiritual belief system.
Hey, did you pick up on something? I thought that was cool. There was like talks about when he was in, I think, Vienna, and he had been working and studying and trying to get on the ladder of academia to work his way up to get something nice, prestigious type of job in a university or whatever. But then there's this element of the hero's journey where he meets a mystical herb seller. I was just going, holy shit! Like, he just meets this random herb seller who like comes into Vienna every week or so with what he's been picking, so mushrooms or berries or whatever the time of year is. And he tells them, they get talking, and he's like, yeah, well, I just think that every living being has this kind of presence, man, and we're all one, man, and it's all fucking groovy, dude. And Steiner's just going, yeah, I love your mushrooms. And that was it. So basically, Rudolf Steiner is what Terence McKenna was. Basically, Terence McKenna is the fucking, or was the reincarnation of Rudolf Steiner.
Yeah, he had a kind of a hard time in academia because he was like going through all of these things and coming up with all these wonderful things and going like, but I feel like a fake in a sense because I'm not talking about stuff I really want to be talking about.
Yeah.
And I suppose there's plenty of that kind of going about. Yeah. He dies quite young too, doesn't he? Like he's is it late 40s or early 50s or something?
Was it all? Was it?
Yeah.
Sure. Do you know the talk, this lecture, the 3 lectures that he gave about farming in 1924, the year before he died, is like the last major thing he did. They were in Wrocław, which is a big city in Poland, but at the time it was German. It was Breslau. So it's one of the things that he did. And I was reading a bit more about him today. Hitler hated him, which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Do you know, you're doing something right if that cunt doesn't like you.
I know, yeah.
On his what would you call it? His Jesus stuff. How did you find that?
Yeah, you see that kind of like we're basically saying that's a lot of that kind of spirituality stuff in the theosophy and all that, where it's coming from and all that. I have a hard time with because it's while I can get behind the kind of practicality stuff of what we're talking about, the rest of the kind of theory of it and the kind of it's kind of spirituality very much with a Christian bent, and that Jesus, it's the kind of idea that Jesus changed the whole course of religious kind of thinking and all that. It's very much, but not in a kind of, he wouldn't consider himself a Christian either, or whatever. But then he gets into the stuff like reincarnation and karma's a huge thing from all that. And I don't know, I've a less of a tolerance for that kind of thinking just in my current kind of mind frame. What was like, I assume you had a negative reaction to the Jesus stuff, did you?
Well, I mean, no, do you know what? I thought it was I'd never heard this take on Jesus before, because Steiner had this thing that Jesus was, so let's say you have yin and yang, yeah? So you have yin and yang, but Jesus is like the middle point that unifies them together. So, and he had this thing, there was Lucifer, and there was, what's the name? Ahriman, yeah?
Ahriman.
Ahriman, Ahriman.
Yeah, Ahriman, yeah.
So these were the two kind of the demons, I suppose you'd call them, or Lucifer was an angel, so maybe this Ahriman is a demon. I don't know.
He is a demon, yeah, he is a demon. But it's the division though between kind of, isn't it, like intellect and desire or something like that?
Okay.
Yeah.
So his thing was that like, so Jesus is the center point of like, of this point in badness and also this point in badness. So, but Jesus is the unifier, and so it's like it's hard to explain. It's like so Lucifer would encapsulate pagan wisdom, okay, but Ahriman, I can't say his name, would encapsulate technological advances, but Jesus is in the middle of the two of them. So if you don't go too far with technology, but you go with some of it, and you find a kind of middle ground with it, but also if you find a middle ground of pagan wisdom and occult wisdom, and you put them both together and unify them so that, okay, we have a bit of paganism in our technology and a bit of technology in our paganism, well then that's Jesus doing his work, and then you're on the right path. You're straight down the middle. You know?
Yeah.
I'd never heard anything like this before. Had you come across it?
Yeah, it's like similar stuff. Well, I had heard Conor Habib talking about that particular thing before, so I was aware of that. But that kind of middle way stuff, I suppose, it's just a balance thing, though, isn't it? Like if you take the good bits of the bad bits, and don't go too far, don't eat too many spuds, or whatever it is. But I think he could equally have made the same exact point without using kind of Christian.
Of course, yeah.
But it's, I suppose you're still preaching to a kind of Christian people.
Plus, like he's Austrian, man. Like the Austrians are, like even now still they're pretty Catholic. Like it's a fairly conservative country. Fairly, you know what I mean? Like there's gay marriage and all that stuff, but like when you get talking to people, it's a bit conservative. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was interesting that like me and you growing up, like Lucifer was only mentioned as like Satan. That was it. There was nothing more about him. And this, I can't even say his name. Like I know so little about him. Like Ahriman,
You're over-pronouncing the H. Ahriman.
Ahriman. So like we're not told about this kind of thing. And I know I was watching some Damien Echols thing about like he was explaining that angels and demons, it's the same coin, it's just different sides, you know what I mean? And it's the same energy, just the different polarities or whatever. What did he say? It's like a battery.
Yeah.
Plus and a negative, which is
well, I mean, demons were angels, of course. They just decided we're having none of God's guff.
I like beer and Jack Daniels. Rock and roll.
In Theosophy, as far as I recall, there's kind of a Jesus figure and a Christ figure. This could be mixed up with the Alice Bailey stuff, who kind of came after, but it's kind of similar Theosophy type stuff. But that Jesus is the guy who he was until the age of 30, when the Christ descended on him, and then it was like the ascended master for 3 years. And Christ is seen as the kind of, in a sense, the perfected man, or in other ways, he's the first person who has gone through all of the lessons that we have to learn to become a perfect human. He was the first person to awaken or become aware of all of these things. And because of him, we're all the rest of us are able to do it easier and stuff like that. I mean, the Christ kind of figure is, I suppose he's been diluted, I suppose, in many ways. He's kind of, it's hard to talk about him because it's like coming from a Catholic Ireland thing, because he's so synonymous with like basically child abuse and shit and all that kind of stuff. But that kind of figure, the Redeemer or the Enlightener, like you even have it in kind of left-hand path magic, which the Lucifer character is to a large extent what the Christ character is to Christians. It's the Redeemer, that the kind of the true inner kind of teacher and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. So it's like it's hard for me in one sense to get behind the Jesus stuff, just because of my kind of baggage with it as well. But I do recognize the thing. Just so much so that like the kind of the Master and the 40 Servants, I mean, it's pretty obvious Jesus iconography, like.
Yeah.
So I mean, I am aware of that. My shite around it. But it's that stuff. I'd love to get more into it and understand that a wee bit more. But it's very hard.
It's mentioned in the documentary. But for me, I'm the same as you. Like for me, like I think they could have spent another 5 minutes on it. But then again, they're making something for telly. They don't want to scare off people and like,
Yeah, still the 3 hours they could have spent at least another.
That's true, I suppose.
Because then when you go and actually try to look into it, now you try and find his writings on it, and there's a couple of. There's one short kind of thing where he talks about Lucifer, but it's mostly incomprehensible to me anyway. You just go, right, I have to properly sit down and study this, and I'm just going, I'm not doing that. I want someone to make a YouTube video that explains it to me. And then
exactly.
Yeah.
Mr. What's his name? Connor. What's his name? What'd you say? Yeah, man.
Conor Habib. Yeah, he probably has. I haven't. Yeah, he probably
Step
has.
up, Connor. I know you listen.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, it's I'm the same as you. I thought it was an interesting take on it, but then at the same time, like, I can't really call myself a Christian, so like, I'm not going to. It's not something. I get what he's at. You know what I mean? I think it's a cool way of framing the Jesus thing as like he's the one, the unifier who's in the middle, and if you follow him, you're on the right path. But then again, I'm like, yeah, but like I can have like 5 times more raspberries next year if I use cow shit. That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And the school stuff is cool, but like I can't go back to school. Maybe when I'm reincarnated, I'd be like, fucking hell, man, I need to go to a Steiner school. you know, and they'll be just like, no, you're going to like the all boys Catholic school because you have to learn how to play rugby because we want to show off to all the other parents. Oh God.
There's a thing on Reddit which is called oddly specific.
Yeah. Nothing happened in my childhood.
Yeah, it's funny because like the whole 3-hour thing documentary, and at the end of it, I'm kind of going, if someone goes, well, what do you know about Rudolf Steiner? I go, jeez, not an awful lot. Like, I mean, there is an awful lot kind of in it, but there's like, there's a whole section.
Come on, we do. We know about the farming, the dance thing.
No, but what I mean is there's I'd say there's definitely way more of that kind of Lucifer kind of thinking. There's definitely more of the spiritual stuff.
There's nothing about the clairvoyancy, because he was supposed to be a clairvoyant as well, and that's mentioned, but like there's nothing ever said like what he predicted for people, you know.
Yeah, and he definitely has some mental ideas about Mars and, you know, the history of man and man's kind of place in the universe and stuff like that. None of that's really kind of covered. Again, just mentioned here and there. But it's called The Challenge of Rudolf Steiner, and he makes it quite clear, the filmmaker, that all of it is, you know, it's the whole point of it is that he's a challenging figure in the sense of that he has these somewhat, let's say, crazy out there notions about things, but when they're put to practical use, really, really work. So you can't really discount the woo-woo if it leads to, you know, the thing he says it does. You know, like you go like why does burying cow shit have such a, you know, a thing to like? And the one of the things it says in it, like, well, if we just stop putting all the shit in, you know, the shit in the sense of chemicals into the earth, would the planet be much happier? And your man goes, no, because it's a reciprocal relationship. It's like, you know, she wants us to be involved in it. She wants us to, you know, it's like, I think it's the example is that, you know, you ring her up and goes, oh, you've been spending my money for so long. Why don't you visit and just have a chat with me? And he says that it's more than just healing the earth, you know, or he says, like, why do you have to give medicine to the earth? He says, because it's, you know, it's a relationship. It's not just.
But sure, look, it's stuff that, like, look, I don't know if other countries do this, but Irish farmers definitely do it. They spread slurry on the fields every year anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's a couple of weeks when the Irish countryside literally smells like shit.
Yeah, chicken shit is the worst, man. That's what they do.
Yeah, that's the smelliest. Is it? That's what they do there, is it? Yeah. No, well, I know plenty of dairy farmers, and they keep the slurry in a big, massive tank, and it's disgusting, and, you know, you never play on it because you'll drown and you won't be able to swim.
Every couple of years there's a story of someone dying in a slurry pit. Oh, man.
But yeah, they put it into a thing on the back of the tractor, they bring it to the field, they spread it out. It's the same fucking thing as Steiner's thing. It's exactly the same thing. Like, they're just taking the cow shit and refertilizing the ground, and
so if they put it into a bone rather than some sort of steel or plastic slurry pit, would get a far higher yield if the right energy was involved. Like, do you buy, basically the question asked, do you buy into the idea that there's some sort of energetic thing going on with that? Or is it literally calcium plus cow shit plus time equals awesome fertilizer?
Yeah, I think it's the second one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because, but I mean, it doesn't matter. It works.
Yeah.
And plus, I only know that because I'm alive in the year 2020 and I know a little bit about it.
Yeah.
You know, and I know from my kind of rural background, I know that this stuff works anyway by doing it. So, like, you don't need to. The only reason it's buried in the bone is so it doesn't fall apart. That's what I can think of. Like, okay, the energy, maybe, if that stuff is real, but I'm not too sure it is.
Do you think if you
like
did...
Tommie, if it's kept in a pit and if it's kept under the ground, it's still the same energy because it's not touched over the winter anyway, except more shit is just added to it. That's it, like.
So you think the stirring 100 left, turning to the right, doing it for an hour, all that, if they didn't do that, they would still have the exact same...
Yeah. Someone says that in the documentary. They say that.
Oh, did it? Sorry, I missed that.
I think it's one of the first or second women, hippie-looking women. They say it, but like, look, it's the whole thing with high magic and rituals and all that. If you need to do this so that you believe in it, fucking go for it. Knock yourself out. Me, I mean, when I get it, I'll order it from France or England next year. I won't start 100 times. I might start 50 times. Just in case, you know.
I only got half the yield I was expecting.
Even
That's
when
strange.
was it yesterday? No, yesterday. No, the day before yesterday was the. No, yesterday was the end of the full moon or something, and I was in a DIY shop and I was just buying seeds, man, left, right, and centre. Came home with a fucking loads of peas, 4 or 5 different types of chilies, fuck tons of herbs, and I was just fucking piling them in. I was like, it's still the full moon. It's still the fucking full moon. It's not over yet. Shouting at them.
Have you any horns?
I didn't shit on them though. I didn't shit on them. But by God, if I knew anyone with any cows, I'd have been getting.
Jesus, next time I can supply you with any amount of cow shit that you want. Literally, when I went outside the door last night of the office, my wall is to the left of it. It's right beside the cow field or whatever, and there's a cow like less than 1.5 feet away from my head, and it's like, oh yeah, that's the story. They're just super friendly cows.
I'm mad into cows. Love cows. I always like cows. They're really smart and they're friendly and they're good crack, like, you know.
Yeah, and I'd be interested to see what the cows would have been like if they hadn't got their horns cut off. If they were, that's like, if that's to be believed about the kind of emotional response and that they get depressed and all that. That's quite sad. I hope that's not true. But,
well, I mean, I don't know, but like I grew up with plenty of farmers, so we'd play in the fields with the cows. Like, we'd fucking start stampedes and all kinds of shit. Like, you know, or you'd be trying to do handstands on like the old cow shits, and you know, hoping that they don't burst and you get covered in it. But like, yeah, I mean, any cows I knew were friendly, but like, sounds so ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, they probably shouldn't cut the horns off. You know, if it's
I always thought the whole thing was that cows didn't have horns, but bulls did, and that's how you can tell the difference.
Yeah, that's what we're told, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're told. Is everything a lie?
Everything is a lie, Tommie.
Everything
is a lie.
Everything.
No, I'm definitely going to read up a lot more on Steiner. But I'd be like you, if I could get a book that's kind of about him, a bit like the way I got that Living with Telema book rather than reading Crowley's book. If there's a synopsis of his best ideas, I'd be more than happy to spend at least €15 on it. Sorry, at most.
I don't know, a couple of evenings with a glass of wine, and I get to sit with him and have someone explain it to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like good stuff and a good way to live your life. And I mean, it's like I said, it's just the planting stuff and the schools definitely spoke to me a lot. So I mean, if
I definitely want to taste the wine, I want to have a go with that. It's awesome. Make your own wine. Does this contain the cow shit? Is this the cow shit wine? How much cow shit's in this?
You'll know it from the label. It's 2 cows, moo moo. Like your man,
moo moo wine.
Why didn't he call the T-shirt the fucking Legends of Moo Moo? Looking at you, Sepherion. But I think he's great, Tommie, and more of him. I wish he was more famous. Maybe he is like way more famous than we think he is. It's just that people don't want to admit that they do it. You know?
Maybe so. I mean, that the fact that you have to study him as part of a degree in childcare would suggest that he's, you know, at least appreciated or that I recognised or whatever. But I mean, I meant like Piaget's there as well, like other than Jordan Peterson talks about, I've never heard of before, you know. So but they're quite high in. You know, we know an awful lot about humanity because of these people. Maybe it's just one of those names that, unless you're looking for it, you're not going to find it, but is, you know, well known in the areas it needs to be well known. It's like, I suppose, Steve Vai. If you're a guitarist, you know, very well known.
Yeah, no one else does.
Yeah, but if you're into football and that's it, who's Steve Vai? You know, I wish he was well known.
Like, I mean, I was watching the documentary, just going like, why is this even? What is this really a cult? Like, Damien Echols is a cult. That's a cult.
Oh, right. I thought you were saying a cult because there's a whole part of the section where they're saying that was a cult, as in CULT, not occult.
No, occult.
Yeah, but in the documentary, they're saying that this whole Steiner thing is a cult, as in the bad type thing, which I don't think it is. What I mean?
No. It's a fairly fucking harmless one if it is.
Yeah, it is, yeah. It's a cult. His teachings are definitely a cult in the spirituality sense. And when you're getting into the Lucifer Christ stuff and all the anthropophosity stuff that's coming from Theosophy, that's cult kind of thinking. And I suppose the Foreman thing, cow manure fertilizer is not probably a cult. Why he came to the conclusion and you know, and the kind of energy element to it and all that would probably come under the kind of occult banner. But occult only just means hidden, and you know, it's a word that
you forget
probably
that, don't you? Yeah.
more. I suppose it's because you have the kind of anti-occult thing, and Christianity, it's that occult is seen as black magic and evil and the devil, and you know, that's kind of the connotations we have for it, rather than it just means stuff that we, you know, don't talk about to our mammies, you know, or whatever it is. You know.
My ma
or I suppose stuff that you don't talk about because you'd be burned as a witch is probably more.
We were at the kitchen table last night, and my ma picked up Alan Chapman's book, and I was like, "You're not going to like that." Yeah, you're right. She read the back of it and just went, "Yeah, you're right." Well, at least now she knows. You know.
It's out.
It's like
you're out of the broom closet.
Yeah, it's like buying the rollerblades, so you don't have to tell him you're gay. You know, that thing. Bill Burr said that there recently.
Oh, that's so good, yeah. On Joe Rogan, you don't have the body for it, even with your extra 2 inches. Your hand would still be crawling along the ground. Yeah, brilliant. That's such a great clip. That whole section. Yeah.
He's getting cancelled as well. His mate Joey, the fat fella, Joey Diaz.
I seen that. Yeah, but it's, Reddit has turned on Joe Rogan as well. They're having none of them anymore. It's like, it's good. I like Joe Rogan. Mostly, I like a lot of the guests that have been on Joe Rogan, and I enjoyed the banter rather than necessarily a lot of Joe Rogan thing. But it's. I wonder how much of the backlash is because he's kind of, in a sense, he's sold out to Spotify, and people are now seeing him as being part of the system, and rather than, you know, the man of the people and all of that. But I mean, he's always problematic. But there's no one who isn't problematic. Like that we've talked about before. Like in any time when we're talking about Crowley, and I was saying to you that no matter who you get into, at some point you're going to find out there's something ridiculous about them that you just can't have. You know, I'm still not got to the Bill Drummond bit. He still seems to be quite cool. That there's no kind of a.
I bet he hates Catholics or something, man.
No, but he is. He was
Protestant.
Protestant, yeah. Oh, maybe.
Scottish Protestant as well. You see, Scottish Calvinist. They hate us. You know.
Yeah, imagine like it just turned out like in the middle of some interview. Oh, but like obviously I hate black people. What? No. Obviously the Jewish cartel is ruling the world. You know.
No, I don't think it would be that harsh. I think it'd be just something like I fucking hate Celtic and all their supporters. Fucking bunch of tags. You know. That's what you'd say. You know. Yeah. And everyone is just like, yeah, all right, fair enough. Don't blame you. What do you call it? You know, Mogwai are massive Celtic fans. They have a song called Scotland's Shame, and it's about Rangers fans, which is great.
Oh, no way. Wow,
but then again, their songs can be about anything because they don't have any words, which is amazing. You know?
It's a very odd thing that I don't think an awful lot of people kind of understand outside of the kind of small little kind of thing of that, how the Scottish football teams have become kind of entwined with Irish nationalism. You know, it's pretty odd.
It is very odd, you know. Yeah, man. Anything else to say on Steiner? Get out of here.
He looks kind of like he could be W.B. Yeats' brother. Kind of, there's kind of like he's kind of got an Irish head in him or something.
Yeah, as he got older, definitely. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I wonder. There's nothing really about him being into like proper occult stuff, though, is there?
Well, just the Theosophy stuff and Krishnamurti. Oh, Krishnamurti's definitely someone we should have a look at some point. He's a really interesting character.
Right.
He came out of Theosophy.
Oh, what I mean is, come back to this, but what I mean is that, like, because at the time, like, the Golden Dawn was a big thing. And even Crowley. What am I saying? Crowley was around it. Been listening to too many fucking Yanks say Crowley. That's what it is. His name's Crowley. And I'm saying that to myself, not to you, America. No, I love you, America, except Trump. No, but like he wasn't. Like it doesn't seem that he was into any of this kind of stuff. Do you know?
I'd say he was. It's just not mentioned too much.
Oh, you reckon so? Yeah.
Yeah. There's magic elements to Theosophy for sure.
Okay.
You know, so anyway, Krishnamurti, we should look into some point. He was basically came out of Theosophy, which was Annie Besant, who took over after Helena Petrova Blavatsky, her and a guy called Leadbeater, or Leadbeater. I know that word is usually pronounced Leadbeater, but I have heard it, that name is pronounced. But he was kind of plucked as a young child in that you were going to be the new avatar, or the new Christ, the new thing, and that's your function in the world. And then he was brought up as that, and they've been told this is what you are, this is what you are. And then there was the great announcement where he was going to reveal himself as the world teacher, and he get up in front stage and went, "I'm not the world teacher, and I'm dissolving this organisation." And everyone went, "What?"
What a legend.
And then has his own kind of spirituality kind of teachings after that, which are quite interesting. He was kind of one of these people who he wouldn't allow any of his students to read spiritual books or occult books or anything like that, because he tried to his best to avoid all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they'd always just they'd have to read crime novels or something.
So how did they work all this out? How did they know he was supposed to be the reincarnation or whatever?
Astrological, I think, but the look of him, I think he was kind of not. I don't want to say a servant. That's not. I mean. He was working or had some sort of connection, maybe his mother had some sort of connection with one of the Theosophy centres or something. I think I have a very vague kind of thing about that. I don't know, that's something, it's been a long while since I kind of looked into Krishnamurti, and there's a lot of videos about him, so he's, there's a lot of talk and a lot of lectures, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of lectures he's done. It seems like a very interesting character, but other than that kind of story, I don't really know much about him.
All right.
Yeah, other than he's well respected, kind of. He's some really good kind of ideas about it. So he's kind of when Steiner left Theosophy, Krishnamurti, it's a very kind of similar disbandment. And then what happened then, Theosophy kind of led into something like Alice Bailey, who kind of came after Theosophy, which is the DELUXE Trust, which is the same kind of. It has the same kind of starring actors, it has the Masters, it has the Masters of Wisdom. There's this kind of whole kind of element, but the UN has a kind of some sort of interest in the DELUXE Trust, which it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's always kind of touted as as part of the New World Order conspiracies and stuff like that. Again, it gets involved in that because there's a DELUXE Trust, there's a Lucifer kind of thing going on in it that people go, oh, it's the Luciferian Order and all of this kind of stuff. But Bailey's an interesting character. Blavatsky's an interesting character that is definitely going. As we get into it, you'll see, as a very kind of a flawed, but interesting as fuck kind of an outlook. For a Russian kind of peasant woman to basically change the entire spiritual outlook of Western society, that's basically.
This is who we're doing next week.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And who, for a lot of people, is an out-and-out fraud, and not for a lot of people thinks just it was an absolute kind of genius or whatever. So it's an interesting. There's very, very kind of. Both sides of the thing with this, but no matter
weird,
what way you want to take it,
isn't it weird that there were so many things happened at the start of the last century that echoed on? Because I'm just that Higgs book that I listened to, and he most of the stuff that he talks about, it all happened fairly early on and had echoes down through the rest of the decades. I wonder, are we seeing a repeat of that kind of now?
Yeah, it's kind of odd though. You had so much of that, and it all seemed as if it was leading up to World War II, and then there seemed to be kind of and then it kind of picked it as if that was the pinnacle or the zenith, and then it was kind of dropped again. But it's all of these things are easy to see in hindsight. I don't think in 1920 you were going, geez, it's a real kind of a serious occult revival going on here. Maybe there were, maybe that was the kind of thing. But I suppose you've other kind of factors as well, that you had the kind of. Electricity was, becoming more widespread. You had, the printing presses more. There was the access to printed materials way more. I know printing books were a long while before then, but mass-produced kind of stuff. And
I presume there's one now. Is there, with the churches losing their influence and?
I would definitely say there's a kind of a spiritual revival where there's people that are not satisfied enough with the kind of spiritual or with the reductionist material outlook, but definitely aren't going to the Jesus camps or whatever. That there seems to be some sort of, which is you had the kind of the New Age thing, which was definitely from the 60s leading up to the the kind of pinnacle in the 80s. The kind of dealt down, then came back with the kind of law of attraction type stuff, and Oprah and all that kind of stuff. But it's. There seems to be some sort of movement towards I don't know, a kind of less a kind of a personal spirituality rather than kind of an organized church kind of spirituality, which I suppose is very hard to organize or see as a kind of collective if everyone has different things, you know. So I don't know. It's hard to know. We'll know in 50 years when we look back and what exactly was going on.
Yeah.
Jeez, 2020, what a year.
Funny I knew now I could buy some Bitcoin in them.
Yeah.
If that's the thing. Oh. Right, Tommie. Bye-bye.